In this video, we are looking at representative sampling. This means picking a sample that is representative of the whole population. Let's look at that in context. There are 400 students in years 7, 8 and 9, as shown here. The canteen chef wants to survey 50 of these students so that the number of students surveyed in each year group is proportional to the total number of students in the year group. How many students from each year group does the chef need to survey? So let's focus on the important bits. The chef wants to survey 50 students out of 400 altogether. Now that might be because it would take too long to survey all 400, so he thinks 50 is a good enough sample to choose to get an idea of what all of the students think. Now, a bad way of doing this would be to pick 50 students all from the same year group. If you pick 50 year 9 students, for example, that means you wouldn't be getting any of the views of year 7 or year 8 students. You might think then that what you should try and do is ask an approximately equal number of year 7, year 8 and year 9 students to get their views equally. But that's not necessarily fair either, because there actually are more year 7 students than year 8 and year 9 students. So you probably do want to survey more year 7 students because your population has more year 7 students. What we need to do is spot what fraction of the whole population the chef wants to survey. He wants to survey 50 400ths of the population. Now, this is a fraction that simplifies. 50 400ths is simply 1/8. That means the chef wants to survey 1/8 of the entire population of students. And he can do that in a way that the number of students surveyed is proportional to the total number of students in each year group by choosing the same fraction of each group. And because he wants to survey 1/8 of the total population, he should survey 1/8 of each year group. So he should choose 1/8 of the year 7s, 1/8 of the year 8s, and 1/8 of the year 9s. In other words, he wants 1/8 of 152 students for year 7. So that's 1/8 multiplied by 152, which equals 19. You can either do that on a calculator or just realise that 1/8 of 152 is simply 152 divided by 8. So that's 19 year 7s that we need. Moving on to the year 8s, we want 1/8 of 136. So that's 1/8 multiplied by 136, or 136 divided by 8, which is 17 students, and those are from year 8. And finally, we need 1/8 of the year 9s. So that's 1/8 of the 112 year 9s. 1/8 multiplied by 112, or 112 divided by 8, works out to be 14 students. And there is our answer. He should survey 19 year 7s, 17 year 8s, and 14 year 9s. And we can check that our answer is sensible because remember, he wanted to survey 50 students. And if we've done this correctly, these here should add up to 50. And if we just check, we can see that 19 plus 17 plus 14 does equal 50. Let's take a look at part B. Now, the chef has changed his mind and he decides he still wants to survey 50 students, just like before, but now he wants the sample to be stratified by gender and year group. Now, this word stratified is something that you don't need to know for the GCSE, but it's basically what we were doing before. We need to split our population into groups and then take the same fraction from each group. This is exactly what we did before, except this time, instead of simply taking 1/8 of year 7, 1/8 of year 8 and 1/8 of year 9, what we need to do is split the year groups into boys and girls and then take an eighth from each of these 6 categories here. So setting out my working, he should survey 50/400ths, which is the same as 1/8 of each category. I can create a table like this and simply find 1/8 of each of these numbers. Starting with year 7 boys, we've got 72 of those, and 1/8 of 72 is just 9. Looking at year 7 girls, we've got 80 of those. 1/8 of 80 is just 10. Now, let's look at year 8 boys. There are 62 of those, and 1/8 of 62 is not a whole number. And we've got the same problem with 74 for the year 8 girls. 1/8 of 74 is not a whole number. So let's leave those out for a moment and look at year 9 boys. 1/8 of 72 is 9, so we can have 9 of those. And 1/8 of 40 is 5. So we need 5 year 9 girls in our survey. Let's come back to year 8. 1/8 of 62 is 7.75. Now I'm just going to put that in even though we can't survey 7.75 students. That doesn't make sense. 1/8 of 74 works out to be 9.25. Now, because we can't survey these fractions of people, what we can do is round these to the nearest whole numbers. But we just need to make sure that once we do that, we end up getting a total of 50 students. So let's do that and see. 7.75 rounds to 8 to the nearest whole number, and 9.25 rounds to 9 to the nearest whole number. And we can do a quick check. 9 plus 10 plus 8 plus 9 plus 9 plus 5. If you add all of those up, does equal 50, which is exactly what we want. So here we have our answer. It's interesting just to compare this to what we had before, so I'll just bring that in here. Notice how the total number of year 7s we are surveying in part B is 9 plus 10, which is 19, exactly what we got in part A. And for year 8, we are surveying 8 plus 9, which is 17, again, the same as what we got in part A. And in part B for year 9, we are surveying 9 boys and 5 girls. That's a total of 14 year 9 students, exactly what we got before. And that's not a coincidence. We're going for 1/8 of the population. So before, we just got 1/8 of each year group. This time, we've got 1/8 of each year group, but because of the extra information, we've been able to do it so that we have 1/8 of the boys and 1/8 of the girls as well. In part A, when we selected 19 students, there's no guarantee that we would have picked 9 boys and 10 girls. We might have picked 11 girls and 8 boys, for example, or 12 boys and 7 girls. There's no way of knowing. But given the extra information that we have, this is what we want. This is representative of the population. For example, we have more girls chosen than boys in year 7 because there are more girls than boys in year 7. There are 80 girls and only 72 boys in that year group. Similarly, in year 9, we're choosing a lot more boys than girls because there are a lot more boys than girls in year 9. There are 72 boys and only 40 girls. So this sample is representative of the whole population.